A focused fool can achieve more than a distracted genius. Do you know the difference between focus and discipline? Because me personally, I had no clue in the past. I thought that being disciplined was enough. It took me years to understand that number one, I need focus, and then after that, I can be disciplined. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Many of you call me EJ. I'm the guy who's on social media, building a legacy and passing on all life and business lessons to each and every one of you. I have built 3 companies up to 5 million level, making all the possible mistakes out there, and now talking about those lessons so that you don't need to go through the same headache. As I mentioned in my intro, being disciplined is simply not enough to get stuff done in life. I thought I was always effective because I was so disciplined, but I failed to realize that number one is focus, and then after that comes discipline. These are the topics I'm going to talk about today in this video. Let's dive in. I want to keep this video simple. It only has 3 parts. First, about my past, then about how I was able to find out what my problem areas were with lack of focus, and then last but not least, what I do now to get better. But before we go there, I just want to answer one question. Some of you might wonder, why the heck am I talking about focus so much? Because so many of my posts, my social media content is directly or indirectly related to that. To me, it's simply because we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. I want to hold myself accountable. Standing here in front of the camera is one way for me to remind myself that I need to keep saying no all the time. This is so difficult for me, believe it or not. I can talk about it now because I have gone through so many difficulties, and I now have tools in my toolbox to get better at this. And I'm passionate about passing that on if it helps any of you out there. So that's my past. Not able to say no, saying yes to basically everything, not understanding that no is the first step to focus. What's the link? The link is this. When I say no, I buy myself time. When I have time, I have clarity. Then I can focus on the things that matter to me the most. And I can get really, really good at those. That's the link that we all need to understand. In the past, I used to have 3 focus areas: my kids, my training, and my business. And here, under kids, basically my family, I didn't just spend time with my kids. I used to do a lot of family-related stuff, which all dads do, that's normal. I probably here should have hired help and delegated more of the stuff. I had a lot of stuff on my plate. Training, I've always had my routines. Anywhere between 4 to 6 times a week, I hit the gym hard and I eat a certain way, and I want that discipline in my life. That's really important to me. And then number 3, business. I had several projects running simultaneously. On top of that, I wanted to educate myself. I subscribed to Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal, local papers, read books, watching shows, podcasts, anything, name it. I was there and felt guilty if I didn't do it. Why? Well, insecurities, weaknesses, did not know how to say no, and wasn't comfortable letting certain fires just burn. Understanding what really matters, because I felt that I can really fix everything and I can influence everything in my life. And that was a big mistake. And now in the second part, I want to explain to you what 2 things made me realize that I need to make a change. Here in the second part, I want to answer that big question in my case, as far as what made me change. In order to understand this, I wanted to draw a line between 0 and 10. And this basically tells me that this timeline here, it's 10 years, and there's one big question in my mind. Coming back to number 2, what does excellence mean in my case? I was able to figure out, based on my experience, based on the people that I have talked to, based on the results I have seen out there, that everything great takes at least a decade to build. So then the next question in my mind is that if it takes me 10 years, how can I grab my future and pull it towards me as quickly as possible? How can I expedite that learning process? Because it all boils down to ignorance debt. The cost of not knowing what we don't know has the biggest price tag in our lives. And we all have to pay down our ignorance debt one way or the other. And there are two ways, with time or with money. With time, you go through the experience by yourself, you make mistakes, you get lessons, and then you adjust as you go. With money, you hire people who can coach you, who have been here at 10 plus years, so you can live multiple lifetimes of lessons without the scars if you talk to the right people. So these are the really big questions here. So the ignorance debt, we all have to pay it down with time or money. The big question is, how can I grab my future and pull it towards me? And then it takes 10 years to get really good at it. How is my brother related to all of this? He's very good at focusing on the things that matter by saying no to everything else. And I've been the opposite. By watching him succeed very well, being able to make money, gain the financial freedom, grow his company, and do all kinds of great things, which I was part of too. I was able to watch somebody who was super good at that. And then understanding that excellence takes that minimum of 10 years. So then focus comes into play when we understand that we need to really get good at something. And there's no way to get good at something if we have 100 things on our plate. If you remember the previous page or slide where I had 3 different focus areas, one might argue that we only have capacity, let's say 10 out of 10. That's not even a question, it's a fact. If you divide that 10 out of 10 into between 3 different buckets, so you basically get on average, let's say 3 out of 10. So how can you get really good at in any of these 3 if you only have that 10 out of 10 capacity to allocate? You can't. What I should have done is that I should have understood that maybe putting all of my effort, 10 out of 10, into one area for a couple of years and putting 2 of those 3 on a back burner and being comfortable with the idea that, okay, I won't be able to make any progress on those 2, but while I'm working on this one, making serious progress, then I can reprioritize and get back to these other 2 while it's their turn. That's the thing I should have understood. So these are the things that made me understand what excellence truly means and how focus is related to it. Hope this was helpful. In the last part, I want to talk about the new principles that I have applied. And these 4 are something that you can copy directly if they are applicable in your life as well. Make your own decision. Number 1, I'm going to go straight to it. Number 1, say no by default. I'm going to ask myself, is this new thing that just got presented to me going to help me achieve my tomorrow's goals? If the answer is no, I'm going to say no. Way harder than it sounds. Trust me, I'm living it right now, every day, every moment. I have to remind myself. And like I said in my intro, this is one of the reasons why I talk to you guys about it, because I'm still a student myself. But these tools really work, trust me. If it doesn't help me tomorrow, I'm going to say no. Simple as that. Number 2, the 10-year rule, which I already introduced. It takes a decade to be really good at something. Understanding that, what, who, and where. Starting with people, who. One of the key questions in life overall, who do I spend my time with? If I'm dating somebody, I'm about to start a new relationship, a new potential business partner is being introduced to me, I'm going to ask myself, do I see myself spending time with this person or doing business with this person still in 10 years? If the answer is no, if my intuition tells me that I don't know, maybe it's always no, by the way, then I'm going to pass. I'm not going to start something that I can't commit the next 10 years to. This also sounds simple and it's very hard, but it's one of the strongest principles of the 4 in my case. So 10-year rule. What applies to different things? What is that I do? A new thing gets presented to me. It's the shiny object syndrome. And the better I get, the shinier the objects look. And the harder it gets for me to stick to my plan, staying course, and just keeping my head down. I keep saying no, keep saying no. Understanding that if I'm really good at that thing that I just committed my next 10 years to, those ideas, those opportunities get represented to me if they were meant to be for me. And where is basically one of those key questions as well. Where do I spend my time? Do I want to live here or somewhere else? Change your circumstances, change your behavior. A powerful way to change our life and making a change overall, whether it's personal or business life. New rule number 3, opportunity cost. Alex Hormozy, in one of his recent videos, this was a mind-blowing thing for me, he mentioned that on average, Americans spend 96 hours every month cooking, cleaning, getting groceries, and all of the regular household stuff. Imagine if you could hire somebody who could do that for you, maybe paying $15 to $20 an hour, and your own fee that you charge from your customers, or if you take your annual pay divided by the number of hours you spend on getting that money, let's say it's 100 or even 50. It would make sense every day of the year to hire somebody else to do that and dedicate those 96 hours to do more business and getting better at your craft. Of course, this is the theoretical model, and some people actually might enjoy cleaning or cooking or whatever. But this is not just about the household chores, this is about everything. Do I go and change my own tires or mow my own lawn or cut the trees, whatever I do? Or should I be spending my time on really getting good at my craft, growing my business, understanding that it takes a decade to get super good at something? So what's the opportunity cost? Hire somebody else to do it. And then number 4, simplify. Complex is easy, simple is hard. That's just the way it goes. All good business ideas, company ideas, the breakthroughs are always simple because they have to be. Simple at scale becomes complex. Complex in the beginning, when at scale, it's impossible to manage. And one of the key principles that I follow here when it comes to simplifying my life is that I have everything on my calendar nowadays. If this is my regular Monday, I have a couple of time slots. So my 7 to 9 time slot is for consuming content. The next 9 to 11 is for training. Then I might have my managed slot here where I answer emails, pick up phone calls, and do all the regular manager type of task. And then in the afternoon, let's say 1 to 4 p.m., I'm creating content. And then in the evening, I have another consume slot like the 7 to 9 here. This is the formula that I try to stick to. Of course, there are days when I have a calendar, when I have client meetings somewhere there in the middle, but having everything simplified on your calendar makes it so much easier than having all balls up in the air at all times. So these are the 4 that really work in my life. These are the tools. Even with these, it's hard to say no and get that focus. But when we have something to lean back on, which is the main purpose of having tools, then it gets so much easier. And here in the end, let's try to summarize what we just discussed. So we started by talking about focus, how I personally have suffered the most when it comes to not being able to say no. I used to be a yes guy. And then I realized through a couple of examples how focus is really, really super important to us because it takes a decade to get really good at something. So I had to learn how to say no and how to simplify my life in order to get that focus. What about you guys? What's your goal for the next 10 years? Did you understand that it takes a decade on average to get super good at something? Do you have your clear focus or your goal? If not, maybe it's time to simplify and refocus. Let me know. I would be interested in hearing your comments about this. What did you think about the video, and what are your key focus areas? Or what are the things, or what are the actions that work in your life in order to get that clarity and that focus that we so much need in our lives? Thank you for watching the video. I highly appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again next time. Thanks.